Hi. Somebody suggested that I redo one of my blurbs because it was a little off, the timing, speaking, and whatever. And sometimes I stumble over words, and you have to keep in mind that this is not a professional effort. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm not a perfect person by any means. I have my flaws, and public speaking isn't my strength. So I'm just going to ask you to accept what I offer. Hopefully the message gets conveyed to you. That's my most important thing. Help thyself. Now, one of the themes in our blurbs has been the difficulties of life. Life is a bitch. No one says it isn't. But there are times when it is a blast. And when it is, we understand why we must make do. And that is because the potential rewards are significant. At times, we can always use a helping hand. It could come from a teacher or a mentor. It could come from a colleague or a friend. It could come from your spouse or your special loved one. It could come from relatives, including your parents, which is often, especially when we're young, and it could come from your kids. Once in a while, it comes from a stranger. There are good Samaritans in this world. So, although it is okay to take advantage of helping hands, this can become a problem when we expect them and even become dependent upon them. Having this attitude becomes a problem, and it becomes severe when we start feeling entitled to them. We should not expect helping hands. We should not ever want to feel entitled to helping hands. We should not push in the direction of becoming overly dependent upon anyone or society in general. Help thyself. That is today's topic. Children at a very young age need lots of help. They need to be nurtured. They need to be loved. They need to be helped. However, as they grow older, they should need less help, and they should be taught to do things for themselves. It is generally accepted that one of the worst mistakes made is when parents neglect their children. Indeed, that's a shame. However, it can be just as bad as when parents spoil their children by doing too much for them. A common mistake a parent makes is to confuse love with giving too much, whether it be material things or otherwise. We all need to fend for ourselves. We can do it, as I tried to explain earlier. However, sometimes a helping hand can materialize, and we should not automatically accept it. But just as you teach a child to walk and stand on its own 2 feet, so the expression goes, we must rear our children to help themselves and become more independent. So it is just a bad mistake for a parent to continually do too much for a child, thus interfering with the maturation process. The best thing that you can teach your child is to think independently and to not continue to be so dependent on parental aid as they grow older. Parents who refuse to let go and be overly involved in their children's lives are selfish, as they are often thinking of themselves by making themselves more important to the child. It is a form of constant instant gratification, and it usually backfires when a parent is over-helping their child. It is not to say that there's any magic formula here, as children, like adults, can be very different in a whole lot of ways. So the amount of help needed at times may vary from child to child, but the parent must still follow the basic precept to aid their children only to the extent that they must, but they should not forget that the goal is to raise your kids so that they can handle things on their own. One way I look at it is, it's nice to think that a parent's job is to eventually put themselves out of business in terms of being the nurturing parent. You'll always have the relationship, but you don't always have to be doing too much for your kids. Now, the same thing applies to all people. Help thyself. We all aspire to accomplish. When do we feel accomplished? When we are successful and thus satisfied. Most of the time it is when we have done something productive that has some value, and it never feels better when we've had a part in it. We need to do things for ourselves. When we do things for ourselves, the accomplishments increase, and we feel better about ourselves. It's not to say that there's any shame in having some help at times. And sometimes we help people, certain people, and they help us, and that's okay. But we should accept help only when we need it, and not merely because it is there for the taking. We need to develop our own personal sense of responsibility. We should not shortchange that and our accomplishments by always looking for aid. The more we accomplish on our own, the more our future capacities to handle things increases. If we become too accustomed to aid, especially when we don't need it, then we inhibit our future abilities to handle situations, including our problems. You don't need Linus's blanket. What you need is a sense of doing things for yourself and not accepting unnecessary aid. Have confidence in yourself. Be proud of yourself. Be independent. With this attitude, you will likely accomplish more than you'd ever expect. Help thyself. Thank you.